Hello, welcome back to my channel. I've kind of fell out with posting because of the whole pandemic thing and having to move my schooling to online, and that wasn't very fun. However, back, we're here. I already have 2 videos at this point that I need to edit and upload, but I've been meaning to do it and I don't want to wait any longer because I've been reading a lot in April so far. So here we are. This is going to be my quarter one of 2019. Wrong year. This is going to be my quarter one of 2020 wrap up. I read first two both January and February. I read 5 books. In March I read 4. One I read twice, and 3 end up being for school. So with that said, we're gonna get started. The first book I read is the first of the many ebooks I've read in the past little bit. That is Circe by Madeline Miller. I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I kind of just wished I got more of her being a witch and the magic and stuff, because I found that there wasn't much of it. I wish I just got more of her being a witch, and I didn't feel like it went that into it. Her writing is very beautiful though, I will say that. I loved her writing, and I love her when they had Circe's interactions with other people. I just wished that there was a little bit more magic involved. The second book I read was The Guinevere Deception by Christian White. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it, and I loved Guinevere, and I loved the world so far. I'm so excited to read more for the series to continue on, and it was such a fun time to read it. And I would definitely recommend it. Third book I read during January is Winterwood by Circe. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. I have to say, I have read her previous book and I enjoyed it, and I love this one the same. I like how her books are like witchy and they always have this different way of it, and I enjoy her story, and I really enjoyed the main character with the magic in this book, and I do really like how it went in the story and all that. I don't think I cared that much for the romance, but that's just because I'm not a romance person, especially when it's straight. The fourth book I read in January, and the only physical book I read, was Don't Call Me Crazy. This is edited by Kelly Judson. It's a collection of essays about mental illness. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I think this is really important for people to read. I really like the sections on depression and anxiety, but that's only because I find that I personally relate more to those, because that's what I deal with. But it was so good, and I definitely recommend it to other people. Just be wary if you have trouble with certain subjects, especially when it comes to mental illness. There is, however, is divided by the topics or whatever, so you can kind of figure it out what you may not be able to handle. But I did enjoy this, especially V.E. Swab's part in it, and I especially love her so much. And the last book I read in January was I Wish You All the Best by Mason Deaver. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. I found it to be really good. I enjoyed the romance. I enjoyed the reading about a non-binary main character, and I especially enjoyed how it deals with such a difficult point about being disowned and stuff when you come out in that side of it, because I find that a lot of media don't actually deal with it. And what I wish you both the best. I did really appreciate how they showed how that happens and the importance of knowing, of being aware that for some people that is an option, and how having a support system is really important for people to survive. Now into February. The first book I read was Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I was bored throughout most of it. I really liked the ending when it was like with the election. Found that to be very fast paced, but I didn't care for most of it. I know that's slightly biased because I do not like romance very much, but I found it to be very slow. I don't like how a lot of romances kind of just deal with the hardships, and as soon as they're together, they kind of cut it off. Like, I want to see them being together. But what can you do? Next book is the one that I read twice, so I'm only going to mention it once, and that's Here. I read it again in March, and that is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I read it for class for one of my I chose it for an essay that I wrote for my classics course this semester about mythology and fiction, and this is the book that I chose. I really enjoyed it. Didn't realize that it wasn't from Achilles' point of view, which was wild when I first started when I read it the first time. But I really liked how the author approached the Battle of Troy and the Iliad, and I really did enjoy it. I'm having trouble going really into detail because of the fact that I did write an essay on it, so I think I do kind of feel very drawn out with this book, especially since I spent so much time with the essay. But it was pretty good, I would say. Yeah, I think that the way she dealt with the relationship was very nice. Especially since the events of the Iliad aren't until like halfway through this one, so like kind of makes the relationship seem so much more realistic compared to what it is in the Iliad, shows in the Iliad, which I really enjoyed. Brought that up in my essay. It was a good point. Don't know why I pointed out that. The next book I read during February was Infinity Sun by Adam Solera. I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. It just wasn't good. The world building was really off. I didn't like the characters at all. I just didn't care at all. And I definitely don't think that it definitely isn't as fantasy as I think it was marketed as. It really wasn't fantasy in general. I think it was more like urban fantasy at most. It wasn't good. I do not recommend it. The next book, or rather play, I read was Measure for Measure by William Shakespeare. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. This play, it's wild, I have to say. It's very crazy. If you don't know about this play, since I didn't know anything about it before I read it for class, it takes place over like 3 days, and it deals a lot with like sex and death, and it's very wild. I ended up writing an essay. I wrote 2 essays on a piece. One was on the midterm, but the final. And it was a very wild ride. I it was definitely very interesting, and I think it would be, I do understand why my professor chose this book for the class. And the last book I read in February was Ninth House by Lee Bardugo. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed the world. I really liked the main character Alex, and I really enjoyed the societies and ghosts and stuff in it. I really do I enjoyed it. I just really liked it. It was very fun, I have to say. And now we're into March for the final few books. We have, first off, already mentioned Song of Achilles. Read that during March. Really enjoyed it. I read it again to tap it up to make it easier to find things for my essay. The next book I read was Kingdom of Souls by Lena Barron. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I found it to be very slow at the beginning, but once it got to the halfway point-ish, or the last third, it got really, really fast-paced, and it really caught my attention and brought me really into the story. So at that point, I was like, okay, I feel this. I really like this. So that's where I was there. And then, my dad told me to read it, and because he really likes Spider-Man, and I read Spidergeddon, which I think he was given as a gift, and I read it, and I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I can't really remember, but it was fun. It was a little, it's the whole multiverse event of Into the Spider-Verse. It's kind of like that, but it was way more characters, and I found it really hard to follow because of the amount of characters that was in this. And as much as I loved it, I just had trouble remembering who was who. So there's that. And at this point, the Zodiac event was happening, but I think around that point, the university shut down I think sometime during that week. So things got real weird, and I wasn't reading up as much either. But I did manage to read 1 book for the Zodiac-a-thon, and that was These Witches Don't Burn by Isabel Sterling. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I really loved it. I loved it so much. I read it as a buddy read with a group of people on Twitter, and I really enjoyed the magic and the conversation with witchcraft and how different things. And I loved the queer representation. It was real gay, and it was really nice. I really liked it. And finally, the last thing I read for this quarter, and in the month of March, or rather play, was If We Were Birds by Erin Shield. This I read again for my English class, and I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. It's a very interesting play, and I recommend people to read it. It actually follows a myth. It talks about, has very strong trigger warnings for rape and sexual violence that I'll bring up now. And it goes along the storyline of a Greek myth, which we did talk about during my mythology course, and I found it really interesting to know that. And it follows Procne and Philomela, and those are the ones that one of them was raped and by the other's husband, and he cut out her tongue, and she made a tapestry to tell, and they end up doing something, and they get turned into birth. That story. And I really liked how that was brought in along with the conversation of rape and testimony and stuff. So I definitely recommend it if you're interested. So those are the books that I read during the first quarter of 2020. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.